Hi everyone, my name is Kate Amrine and I'm a trumpet player and educator based in New York City. I teach students of all ages from elementary school through high school, college students at New York University, and adults as well. I love working with students of all ages because everyone has such a fun and unique perspective to bring to the instrument. As a performer, I play in all different kinds of music and settings, from Broadway shows to orchestra concerts, rock bands, chamber music, and more. So today we're going to be doing a warm-up together, and you can follow along in the video or in the handout as well. Please let me know if you have any questions about trumpet playing or what a career in music looks like today. I love helping out young trumpet players and making the world a better place through music. You can find me online at kateamrine.com or on social media at Kate Trumpet on Facebook and Instagram. All right, let's warm up. Let's just hold a C for about maybe 8 to 10 counts, whatever that means to you. So whenever I do this with my students, I say you should aim to have as smooth and consistent a tone as possible. So hopefully you didn't hear any wobbles or wiggles in my sound, but I'll show you what that sounds like in case you were wondering if you sound like that. So you don't want to sound like that. You want to make sure your sound is just like a wall of the same pitch going through from the beginning to the end. And of course, this is going to translate into the rest of your playing when you're playing real music. And we want our sound to be as strong and as pretty and as smooth as possible. So I'm going to play one more C and then we're going to start our buzzing. Let's make this one a whole note. All right, time to buzz. So we're going to start with this short exercise of C, D, and then E. All right, and I want to show you the way that I'm holding my mouthpiece, because sometimes I see people holding the mouthpiece in all other sorts of ways. So you don't want to do this death grip thing. That is not going to be what's helpful for you. If you look, that sort of blocks off the hole. It doesn't matter what hand you say to use necessarily. I know some people say to use your non-dominant hand. So for me, that is my left hand. It's easier for me to use my left hand just so I can hold the trumpet in my right hand. But whatever works for you, go for it. So I'm going to do that same one more time and get a little closer to the camera. So when I do these mouthpiece exercises, I'm aiming for as beautiful a sound as possible. Sometimes people have a lot of air in their buzz, and you want to definitely try and avoid that. You want the pitches to be really clear, so we're specifically aiming for C, D, and E here, so anything else is not going to fly. Now let's do the quarter note one. So the same pitches, we're just aiming for something a little bit faster. And then you're going to pause and ask yourself, did both of these sound clear and smooth? And if you had any notes that aren't a C or a D or an E in there, then you might want to do these two again. And you might even want to play that C on trumpet one more time just so you can really get that pitch in your head. If you have an app or an access to a computer that has a drone on it, this can be a really good exercise to have a C going while you do these. So now let's do some glisses/sirens. So we're going to be glissing from C to G and back down. You can also think of it as a siren because we all know what that sounds like. And so what I mean by a gliss is that you're going to be playing all of the notes between C and G. So it should sound as messy and dirty as possible. This is one of those only times where that's exactly what you want. And what I mean by that also is that it shouldn't sound like you're playing C and then G and then back to C. It should sound like all the notes in between, up and down. So what I don't want to hear is this. So Make sure it's all slurred and all connected. And then we're going to take these through the fingering patterns all the way down. So you can see that I'm always taking a full, fresh breath in between every exercise. In general, I think buzzing and everything that we do on the trumpet is not something that you want to rush. You always want to make sure you have a full tank of air every phrase that you play. All right, let's move on. So the next thing we're going to do is buzz a line of this first sketchel etude. So I love buzzing real music, and I know many of my students feel the same way. It just, allows your everything to connect. So your air, your sound, all of that good stuff. And it feels a little bit more like actually playing the instrument than to just sort of buzz random sounds. And so to do this, I'm going to start by playing the first note of the exercise. So you can do this at home on any exercise, on any etude you have, definitely preferably things that are easy. The Getchell book is such a great one for this, so that's what we're going to be doing. So you could pause this video and go through the whole rest of the etude. I believe these etudes are available online, but you can also drag your PDF all the way to the bottom and you'll see the full etude there as well. So some things that you'll notice really quick in what I just did, I'm fingering along. Hopefully you can sort of see that. And for me, that helps really center the pitch, because a lot of times when people buzz, it becomes this very slidey, like not super accurate thing. And I think that is not what we want to be aiming for when we buzz, because for me, buzzing is a way to connect my body, my air, my actual physical lips buzzing with the instrument. And so the more accurate I can be on the actual mouthpiece, the more accurate I'm going to be on the trumpet. So if your mouthpiece buzzing sounds like this, where it's a little pitchy, articulation isn't as clear, and then this one might be a good one to try and listen to what I just did and then buzz it one more time. So other things you'll notice in that, I took breaths every 2 bars. If you want to take a breath every 4 bars, that is totally fine. But I definitely recommend every 2 bars, especially at this tempo. And that doesn't mean breathing in between quarter notes. That means actually every 2 measures. All right, now let's play it on trumpet. So I'll count us off so we can do it together. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, so you can see here the lip slurs that we're going to do today. And these are great to do at any tempo, especially if it's the middle of the day. Maybe you have a rehearsal later and you just need a couple quick things to warm up. These are really great for that. It gets your air moving, your sound moving, all of that. So we're going to start on C and then slur up to G and then take that through the rest of the finger patterns. So breathe whenever you need to and aim for everything to be as smooth and clear as possible. Okay, now we're going to do G up to C. So for this next one, we're going to alternate. So I'm going to go first, and then you can play right after me and hear exactly what it should sound like. All right, so we did some lip slurs. So you might notice that I'm using my third slide. If you are seeing that and you're like, what the heck is that? I have no idea what she's doing. So this is something that I use on my C sharps, so 1, 2, and 3, and on my Ds, 1 and 3. Low Ds and low C sharps. So using that third slide allows those notes to be in tune. If this is something you are still so confused by, shocked by, have never heard of in your life, then don't worry about it. But if this is something you do know about, using that in your lip slurs is going to help make everything in tune. And if you are finding yourself with lots of time and excited to learn and explore and get better on the trumpet, now is a good time to start incorporating that into your daily practice. All right, the next thing we're going to be doing is these Chickowitz flow studies. So there's many different versions of these, and we're going to be doing one of the most standard easy versions today, which just goes through all of the keys. If you've seen other versions of this, you're welcome to pause this video and try out a harder, higher version as well. But I definitely recommend starting with something like this because it's still pretty early on in our warm-up, and you're going to want to make sure that everything is flowing and feeling as good as possible. So you'll see we're going to be going through a lot of the different keys, and we're going to alternate on this one too so you can hear what it sounds like. So because we're going through all of the different keys, you might be seeing some sharps and flats that you might not have seen before, so welcome. They're not going to be as hard as you think. I'm also going to say that every line of this exercise is supposed to sound the same, just 1/2 step lower. So if it sounds a little funky, that might mean that you're playing a wrong note. Also, there's no shame in writing in some fingerings or letter names if that's going to make you more comfortable. You might see some sharps and flats that you haven't seen before in this exercise. I will say that each line is supposed to sound exactly the same, just a 1/2 step lower. So if you feel that the notes that you're playing aren't lining up with the previous line that you just played or heard, then you might be playing a wrong note. I'm also going to say that there's no shame in writing in a letter name or a fingering if you need to, especially in your warm-up. You want to make everything as easy as possible so that you can have a great time and get to playing some music. And if that helps you to write in the fingerings or note names, I highly recommend it. After a certain point, you're not going to need it anymore, so you might as well make it easy for yourself to continue right now. Let's get started. All right, so hopefully you heard in that first one that everything is as smooth as possible. We're playing this basically in 2, and everything is slurred. That's what that long line connecting all of the notes means. So before we do the last 2, I just want to point out that as we get into the much lower range of the trumpet, you're going to want to put a lot more air through the horn. Sometimes people play these exercises, and as they get lower, everything starts to sound a little airy, a little less full. And putting a lot more air and really pushing it through each phrase is going to help combat that. Because we want all of our notes on the trumpet to sound easy, beautiful, smooth, all of that, no matter whether it is low or high. All right, it's time for some articulation studies. So as trumpet players, we are always going to be alternating between playing things fast and slow and pretty and march-like, so it's important that our articulation is ready to go at the beginning of the day. So some of my favorite articulation exercises are scales, playing patterns on different notes, and the Clark studies. So we're going to be doing 2 of Clark number 2 today. We're going to be doing it in the key of C and in the key of F. So the way that I like to do these exercises is pretty much as written. So we're going to be playing the whole thing twice, slurred the first time, and then articulated and tongued the second time. And let's do it together. So I'm going to count us off. 3. So let's do it in the key of F now. And let's do this one together. I'm going to count us off. 1, 2, 3. All right, it's time to do some higher lip slurs. So the best thing about playing trumpet is playing high notes. I know many people love that, are either scared of it, they love it. It's definitely a huge part of playing the instrument, and so we want to make sure that our high range, or whatever high range means to you, because it's always going to be changing and it's also always different to everyone else. You know, my highest note might be here and your highest note might be here and my friend's highest note might be here. So these things we're always working on, but it starts with doing it every day in your warm up. So we're going to start from slurring from a low C up to an E and back down. And it should sound just as smooth as any of the other lip slurs that we've done so far. All right, now we're going to take this through the patterns. Now, before I keep going, if you're someone who that high E was really hard for you, don't feel like you need to sit out the rest of this exercise. I guarantee that some of these lower ones are going to be totally fine and definitely worth trying. The thing that I love about high notes is you're always a half step away from working on something new and exploring a new part of the instrument in your range. So it's never great to, sit something out because you're like, oh, I just can't do that. It's like, no, you're pretty close. And the more you get out there and you really try over and over again to do it, it's just going to get so much better. So definitely keep trying. So now we're going to start on low A. So now is a great time to work on some scales, but before we do that, let's play some music. Sometimes people don't like working through the trumpet fundamentals because all you want to do is just go straight to your etudes, your solo for the day, but this is the stuff that's going to make you really, really good at the instrument. It's going to make your sound really great. It's going to make your articulation really great, your high notes really great, all of your phrases really smooth. So definitely make sure you get in a good warm-up every time you practice. So the next piece that we're going to play is the Getchell First Study, and we're going to do the whole thing together. And I wanted to do it like this so that if you decide to leave out a phrase, you can listen to me and you can always listen to the whole thing and then pause the video and try it your way and then replay it and all of that good stuff. So let's do it. I'm also going to be changing up some of the articulations from what's written. So if you look at the page, all you see are tongued notes. And in my warm-up, I like changing up the articulation so that my tongue and my sound and my brain gets a good workout. So if that's something you want to do, go for it. Otherwise, you can just read it as written. So I'm going to do the whole first line tongued, the whole second line slurred, the third line tongued, and then the fourth line slurred. All right, let's do it. 1, 2, 3. We've come to the end of our warm-up. So hopefully you're now warmed up and ready to go, and you can practice your scales, your etudes, your solos, your improvising, anything else that you're going to do for today. So please let me know if you have any questions, and happy practicing.